Right. In today's session, first let me focus upon the topic that is section 1 on engineering mathematics. Why I have chosen this as the first topic is one of the reason we have students from 5th semester as well as 7th semester. There are topics in other sections which are yet to be covered for the 5th semester. So if I start with one topic, it may so happen that 5th semesters not yet completed and 7th semester they are aware of it. So there will be small amount of discrepancy and my explanation levels will be different. For that reason, I'll just cover up with some topics initially which has been covered already in lower semesters, semester 1 to 4. So such kind of topics, by doing it, I can quickly move on to through many topics. So I'll identify those topics first, and I'll cover up those topics in the beginning sessions. Like first 3 or 4 or 5 sessions, I'll cover up like that. Then I will move on which are on the higher end, higher semester end. So to begin with the one thing before I explain you that we are going to take up here, section 1 or section 6 or 7, whichever section it is, doesn't matter. In all the section, one thing you have to keep it in mind, that is when you are solving a problem in gate, remember it's a competitive exam. First and foremost, each and every time I explain the same thing, same logic or planning I tell, keep in mind one important thing: the examination is intended to identify your basics, fundamentals. So the questions will be fundamental level. So if your fundamentals are perfect, you may not get too high end questions, high level questions, you will not get it. All will be basic. Even though it is numerical, the numericals will be very simple one, but looks complicated if you have not understood the fundamentals, or you have understood the complicated way. In any of the situations, you will end up with some questions. One thing. Second one, another, this is the best part in gate. Many observed this. It's like you have some strategies to solve any problem, which is a descriptive way. When I ask you a problem in the class, in the examination, that is 3 hour SE pattern, descriptive answer kind of thing, question is given to you, you have to solve them in stepwise. So you will solve them. The concept that also similar, you will learn it in stepwise. But when it comes to this kind of competitive exams where you have options in front of you, if there is a blank box, fill in the blocks kind of box kind of thing, yes, you may have to solve super option. Use your brain properly. You know that one of the four answer is correct. And you come across that. If you come across a situation where one of the answer is correct, if it is a numerical, try to relate, like negate out, odd man out. Try to negate out the options. You may end up with a solution without solving the problem. At least 2 or 3 questions will be there in your gate paper. 1 or 3, minimum of 2 to 3 questions you'll find it. Such questions you'll find it. Once you've completed the examination, you will realize that, or if you once you solved it, and while attempting the answer, you will realize that without solving that, without spending that much time on that problem, you could have answered that question super quick. So I have 1 or 2 problems in this particular session. So when I come to that, I'll just focus upon that strategy. Okay, so let me move on to the second. Yeah. So the content that will be covered in most of the topics, which is same as the syllabus for GATE for section 1, engineering mathematics. So you will have linear algebra, calculus, differential equations, probability and statistics, numerical methods. In this, you have linear algebra, specifically you have system of equations and matrices. It's completely focused on that. 1 or 2 questions it is there, and these questions will not be this section. For your information, if you're not gone through any gate old papers, I suggest you to go through that. You see that these questions, there is all this section 1, 2, 3 like that. It will not be under each section. It may be mixed up. Okay, the questions may be mixed up. So randomly these questions will pop up in between. So you don't think that all engineering mathematics done, then microbiology done. No, it won't be like that. Some random in between questions will be from mathematics. So you can't identify in the beginning that it is downstream kind of thing. But overall, you will have around 10 to 15 questions from around 15 to 12 questions, I think, I will from mathematics. So out of that, around 2 to 3 questions matrices. Then probability and statistics also you have questions specifically that will be there. Around 3 to 4 questions you will get, may get. Numerical methods chances are high. This calculus and differential equations will be there. 1 or 2 questions will be there, but at the basic level, fundamental. So my focus will be on that point of view. So linear algebra, matrices, the basic thing required, and calculus conceptual and differential equation conceptual, I'll be teaching you. Whereas probability and statistics, what is necessary here, slightly in detail, I'll go through this so that it is useful for you. And even numerical methods, how you can solve some simple questions. So that way we'll think about it. You will have numericals in all of it, almost all of it, you will have numericals. So in this session today, I'll be covering linear algebra and calculus. These two topics I'll be covering. Okay. So let me jump upon the basic concepts in linear algebra, that is matrices and determinants. So before I start up with some questions and solutions to that, explain you some basic level. So matrices, there are certain terms that you may come across. So you should know what they are. Okay, this can also be a question. Identify a diagonal matrix or identify upper triangular matrix. Some base, very simple question you may come across, or it may be hidden question also. Symmetric means important thing in matrix. I hope everyone has gone through the matrix. So when you say matrix, the n by n, we call it as n by n or m by n matrix. We m number of rows, n number of m by n. Always row comes first, column comes next. Okay, so m by n means m rows, n number of columns. Square matrix means to n, right? So number of column and number of rows will be equal. Now, when you come across this m by n matrix, the way matrix, you can see the bracket, how it is written, the square bracket, how it is written. So that can also be written, or the soft bracket, you can down a plus b, it's written, how we in that. So it could be written the case. Now you have the most important one is diagonal. Okay, so left top to the right bottom, left top to the right bottom, if you move that one line here, that's the diagonal matrix. Normally we see it beautifully in the case of a square matrix. The time come across square matrices only. So in that square matrix you have a diagonal matrix. Now that will be the basis for all our analysis. Most of the analysis, it goes around this diagonal matrix. So if you look at the diagonal matrix, above that and below that, that is there in this L shape, right? 5 3 and 2 3 minus 5 here. So if you look at it, it is invert. Okay, above the diagonal line and below the diagonal, it is inverted. 3 minus 5 minus 2 2, right? So it's a kind of mirror image across the diagonal. So that in such case, it is called as a symmetric matrix. And diagonal matrix means you have the values, non-zero values in diagonal line only. All other values other than diagonal are zero. That is called as a diagonal matrix. Now, improvisation of the diagonal matrix, if in the diagonal matrix all the diagonal values are 1, then we call it as last row in this identity matrix. So the identity matrix is a diagonal matrix where the diagonal values are 1. And another upper and triangular matrix. I hope there is a triangle above the diagonal and below the diagonal. Upper triangular matrix, the values will be for non-zero values on the upper side of the diagonal line. If the non-zero value on the lower side of the diagonal line, we call it lower triangular value. You can see that triangle value is 0, upper value is 0, and lower value is 0. So based on where the numbers are present, non-zero numbers are present, you call it upper triangular matrix, lower triangular matrix. All the values in matrix are 0, we call it as a zero matrix. So I told identity matrix with respect to diagonal matrix. Then basics about the matrix. Then we come to addition. On matrix addition, subtraction. Whether the audio is fine now, clear? Right, okay, I'll go ahead. Now, when you do the addition of a plus b, you will be adding the element by element. Remember it, it is element by element operation. So individual values are called as element of the matrix. So this, for example, here 1 plus 2, the first element and the first element over here, and the second element by second element, right? So the element by element, you will be adding the values, and similarly for the subtraction, 1 minus 1. Same way, last value, 2 minus 3 is minus 1. Okay. Now, when the number of columns of the first matrix is same number of rows in the second matrix, then matrix multiplication can be performed. That is, when you want to do the matrix, you have to ensure that it is, if it is a M matrix, then it should be n by m, reverse order, m by n and n by m. So the number of rows will be equal to the number of columns. That you have to ensure when you come to the matrix multiplication. So how do we do the matrix multiplication? You take the first row, you have to make a some product, some first row and first column, some product. Similarly, second column, like that it goes on. For example, if you see here, in this case, it is AE into BG. That is E plus B into G. That is first row, first column. The first column, you get the first term here. Okay. Similarly, you
Sir,
have the next one. Yeah.
your voice is
It
breaking again.
is still breaking.
Yes, yes.
1 second. How about now? Is it audible? Clear? Or
Yeah,
still
yes.
breaking?
No,
That's
it's
fine
clear
now?
now. Yeah, yeah. Thank you, sir.
One important thing,
Sir, it's breaking again.
the earphone, speak with the system audio. Let me see. Is it audible now?
Ah, it's audible, sir.
Huh?
It's audible, sir.
1 second. I'll increase the volume. Yeah, now it's clear.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Maybe microphone issue. Fine. So you observe that the first row, the two first row will remain in the first row itself for AB. I'm talking about A and B. It will remain in the first row, AB and AB. So the first column, EG, this EG will remain in the first column itself. So that is why it's clearly mentioned to you earlier that the number of rows and number of columns should be same. So this you come across a matrix and you can calculate the product of that also. There is no matrix division. So don't go for a division of matrix, and we call it as transpose, other way around. So transpose of a matrix is found by exchanging the rows of a column, rows for the columns. So if you have a matrix with a aij element, and transpose will be aji. That means just invert this, that is 5 to first row, make it as the first column. Second row, make it as the second column. Third row, make it as the third column. So you have just inverted it. That's rows and columns are changed across, and that is called as transpose matrix. So that is defined, I mean, written as a power t. Okay. Then comes the determinant. Remember, till here it is a matrix. It is it's not individual number. It's together. It's not a number. It is a set of numbers. Now we are combining them to obtain one single value. Okay, and that is called as determinant. Determinant is something like a number that defines the group actively. It's something like, not exactly, it's an equivalently saying something equal, something like you have set of number, mean, average of them, right? So actually the individual values are there, they remain as it is. To identify them as a group, you call it as an average of those numbers. It's not exactly same, but equivalent way of understanding it. So you get something called as a determinant of a matrix. Determinant of a matrix is a number. It is represented by two lines with the symbol. I mean, those, that's the symbol representing determinant of matrix A. So A is the matrix. The determinant is represented by either this DET or these two lines. Now, if I take only 2 by 2 matrix, 2 by 2 matrix, if it is taken, A11, always remember this A11 refers to IJ, Aij. I stands for row, J stands for column. You can put I is equal to 1 to the number of rows you have, and J for 1 to the number of columns you have. So A11 represents first row, first column, Aij. First row, second column. Here it is A21 means second row, first column, and A22 means second row, second column. That's the meaning of, that's the way it is written. Okay. Now, if you want to find out the determinant, you will make a cross product and deduct the second term. That is, always you start with the left top. Remember it. Always from left side it is starting. A11 into A2, a diagonal way it is calculated. A11 into A22 minus. Okay, it's always a you will observe later also that it is a cyclic sign convention that we're using. Cyclic means if you use one plus ones, then the next one will be negative, then again plus minus cycles will be using it, so that you keep it in mind, plus and minus cycles in matrix. So you have A11 A22 multiplied, so the cycle, it's positive, right? So the next will be negative, then the reverse diagonal, so you'll take the reverse diagonal, A21 into A12, so that will be it will give you a single number, and that is a determinant. Similarly, if you want to find out the determinant of a 3 by 3 matrix, so 3 by 3 matrix, if you observe, so we'll have to break all the entire value or the set into 3 separate matrix, 3 set of matrix. That is, A11, leave that particular row and column, that particular row and that particular column, you leave it. You end up with a small 2 by 2 matrix, a sub matrix you will come across, right? Component matrix. So that matrix, you take it down, the determinant of that matrix multiplied by A11. So you will calculate one factor actually. The cyclic order, if you take plus here, the immediate next value will be negative. Then I'll go to the next value, A2, A12, right? Always remember, it is always starts with the row. First priority to the row, next priority to the column. So here when you calculate, the first row will be keeping it separate, and corresponding column from the second row and third row will be using it. So A11, I have used it. The cofactor for that, this one, this is called as cofactor matrix. So this particular matrix, I'll be using it to calculate the determinant only for that part. Minus, that's the next value. Second term, I'll use it, A12. For that, what I have to do is corresponding row and corresponding column, I'll have to leave. From the second row and third row, I will have to generate a 2 by 2 matrix. How do I do it? First row, leave it. Second column, you leave it, because I'm considering A12 over here, A12. Concerned 2 by 2 matrix is A21, A23, A31, A33. You can observe that here, right? Similarly, third term, I'll take it, A13. For that, I have to leave its corresponding row, its corresponding column. So I end up with this cofactor matrix, A21, A22, A31, A32. You can see here, and see the sign here. So alternating plus, minus, plus. So determinant I can find out. I'll consider first 3 rows. First 3 rows I'll use it, and corresponding cofactor 2 by 2 matrix I'll write it. Then sign convention, plus, minus, plus. Now you have to simplify as you have done it here. It is for one 2 by 2 matrix we have done here calculation. Now you have 3 2 by 2 matrix. One here, second one here, third one here. Finally, they end up with a single number, and that is the determinant for a 3 by 3 matrix. Okay, so this is the concept of calculating determinant. Most of you know about this already. Just to revise the topic, because I require that topic here at this point. Inverse of a matrix. So you want to calculate inverse of a matrix. Now this is required for some of the calculation. In the next slide, I'll show you where it is used, applicable. Inverse of a matrix, how do you calculate? You write it as a power minus 1, a inverse, and it is calculated as adjoint of a. Adjoint is a matrix. In a particular way, you are going to modify that particular matrix. All right. So adjoint of a matrix divided by determinant of that matrix that you have to calculate. So determinant of matrix, how you have to calculate? I have just explained over here, either 2 by 2 matrix or 3 by 3 matrix. Keep in mind, at start from in my starting point only, I had told you that in GATE, you will never come across complicated cases. All cases will be simple, basic. So you may expect a 2 by 2 matrix or 3 by 3 matrix at the max. Even if you get 3 by 3 matrix, I'm 100% sure that it will be a simple matrix. Simple matrix means there will be a big set of zeros. Only few numbers will be there. So these calculations, you can make it in your brain itself. You don't require a pen and paper for that. Manually, you can do it quickly. So majority of the values will be 0. So because 0 multiplied by 0 is 0, right? Now, adjoint of a matrix, you will have to calculate. In my next part here, I'll show you how to calculate for a 2 by 2 matrix and 3 by 3 matrix. I'll show you how to do that. So you will calculate adjoint of a matrix. Remember, it is a matrix that you're going to get. Then determinant of A. This is a number. Determinant of A is a number. Adjoint of a matrix A is a matrix. So what it is, look at the key words here and let us break that. Adjoint of a matrix is the transpose of cofactor matrix of A. Means you have to calculate the cofactors for the matrix A, then take their transpose. Okay. Now in my method of doing it, I'll do it slightly different. That is, I'll first transpose it, then I'll first find out the, I'll find out the transpose of that, and then I'll calculate the cofactor one after the other, step by step. Let us do that. Now, what we are going to do, let us see this. Assuming we have a square, one important thing that you should understand, the definition of it. Okay, what it means in A inverse. Assuming we have a square matrix which is a non-singular, the non-singular matrix means determinant is not equal to 0. A singular matrix is a 1, the other way around. A singular matrix is a 1 which has determinant value. This is determinant of A is 0. So whenever you come across determinant related problem, anything adjoint or anything, first thing you check is this one, last line I have written here. First step you need to do is calculate the determinant. If determinant is A is 0, it's a singular matrix, you cannot calculate. Inverse of A is not available. Okay, that also could be one of the solution there. What you will do is you'll start calculating adjoint, all this you'll calculate, and last step will come to determinant of A, and you see that it is 0. One of the options, it says that A inverse is not available or not applicable. Some answer will be there, but you have simply wasted your time in calculating adjoint of A. So that is why first always this is what I've been telling you earlier. You plan it well. You have to plan it well. That is, you should know what to calculate first. It's not that simply it's there in the equation, calculate this, then calculate that. So you can do it in any way. That is, determinant A, if it is 0, you do not have the inverse, right? So first calculate determinant of A. If it is there, then you can calculate adjoint of A. If it is 0, then you can simply say that inverse of matrix is not available. You need not calculate adjoint of A. It is possible that the intentionally a problem is given where a determinant of A is 0. Okay, so just to consume your time, you will if you go by the step for a subjective question paper, the way you do it, you'll start calculating everything. It will take a lot of time and you will be wasting your time on that. So by definition, inverse of A is nothing but if you multiply inverse with its original matrix, you will get identity matrix I. You know the identity matrix, all diagonal values are 1, all other values elements are 0. Non-diagonal elements are 0, diagonal elements are 1. So you should get such a matrix that is called as A inverse. Okay, it is as good as saying A inverse is reverse, that is inverse of A. That's the correct way. For example, the inverse of 3, number 3, the inverse of it is 1 by 3, because if you multiply 3 and 1 by 3, you get 1. That's a number, that's on a normal number, integer. Whereas it's a matrix, it's a set of values. It's not a single value, it's a set of values. So that is why you will be having a set of procedures to follow over here. Let me just give you an idea here, but in the next step for a 3 by 3 matrix, I'll show you how exactly it is done. If you have a 2 by 2 matrix, okay, if you have a 2 by 2 matrix, the denominator over here is a determinant AD minus BC, AD minus BC, right? So that's a determinant, and the matrix that you get, which is the set transpose of the cofactor, the transpose of the cofactor here, how it is written, just observe it. AD is reversed, AD diagonal matrix, right? AD is reversed, D and A, and non-diagonal matrix C and B here, it is reversed. Sorry, it's given negative sign, right? C and B are given negative sign, that is minus B and a minus C, right? So for a 2 by 2 matrix, it's easy. You don't have to go by any mathematical formula modifications. Diagonal matrix, you invert it. Non-diagonal, the other way around, you just give the minus sign. So this becomes your adjoint of A. So to calculate adjoint of A, you don't have to do any mathematical formulation. You need not remember anything. Just modify the numbers, reverse the numbers. A and D interchange without sign change, and B and C provide, multiply by minus sign. And the determinant of that is AD, diagonal matrix multiplication, minus non-diagonal matrix multiplication, BC. So 2 by 2 matrix, you don't have to follow any mathematical equation or method or anything, as it is mentioned over here. Transpose of cofactor, you don't have to calculate cofactor and transpose. Remember, I'm not teaching you matrix here. I'm teaching you in terms of how you have to follow in a competitive exam, so that you can do it super quick. Now, determinant of A should be non-zero in this case, because the denominator, if it is 0, you will get infinite solutions. Then inverse only exists for a square matrix. This is another important. So it should be a square matrix. Square matrix means 2 by 2 matrix possible, 3 by 3 matrix it is possible, or 4 by 4, like that it goes on. So if you have a any other matrix, M by N type, 2 by 3, 3 by 4 matrix, so such matrix you don't have the inverse. Then not every square matrix, that is one second rule. Third rule is not every square matrix has an inverse, because it is also possible that you may not be able to get the cofactor. That is mainly because that is one of the main reason is determinant of A is 0. Okay, so it is also possible that determinant of A is 0, and you may not be able to get the inverse for that. That is also true. Fine, let me go to the 3 by 3 matrix. This one I'll just explain you the steps, how it is done overall. Then I will come by numbers. I will not go directly to the numbers. I'll take you through the entire blocks. First, I'll follow through the red lines block. Then I'll come one by one. What has been done, I'll show you. First thing is, I have identified whether the determinant of A is 0 or not. That's my first step. If it is 0, there is no inverse for it. So what I did, I calculated, this is the matrix M is equal to 1 2 3 0 1 4 5 6 0. Okay, so there are some colored lines that you can see, uh, magenta kind of thing, then blue and green, 3 lines are there representing 3 rows. Where it goes, you can trace it. That is why. Now the determinant of that matrix is 1. When you calculate the determinant of this, it is 1, and you can observe that there are 2 zeros. So whenever there is 1 or 2 zeros, your calculation becomes very easy, because you have to multiply with zeros. So when you multiply with zeros, you will get zeros only. So 0 plus 0, 0 minus 0, that kind of values you will get it. So you should be happy if you find some zeros here. That eases your solution. So the determinant of this matrix M is equal to 1. So it is the matrix is not 0. There is inverse for this. So I can go ahead now. So what I will do, first thing I do is I take a transpose. Okay, first I will do the transpose of that matrix. Then I calculate cofactor for each and every element. How many elements are there? 3 by 3. 9 elements are there. So equivalently, 9 cofactors I have to calculate. So if you look at the values here, they correspond to individual, the values are elements which is present here. Individual elements which are present, the corresponding cofactor I have written. So if you are doing it, if you are doing the calculation using a pen and paper, this is the way you can do it. If it is a complex 3 by 3 problem. So don't do it in a single horizontal line. It is like in the same way the numbers appear here, same sequence you follow it. So this represents first element, second element here, third element here. So you'll not get into confusions. So what I have done is cofactor I have calculated for the transposed matrix. Then I am writing the transpose matrix. This I am clubbing it and making it as the cofactor matrix. This is called as cofactor matrix. This cofactor matrix is incomplete. I have to multiply with the signs. The sign I'll tell you later when I come to this. So this matrix I'll multiply with the signs, a set of signs, that I get it as adjoint of the matrix M. This is called as, after multiplying, I get a matrix that's called as adjoint. Okay, so this adjoint of matrix, I'll have to divide it by the determinant. Look at the equation here. M inverse is equal to 1 by determinant of M into adjoint of the matrix. So this matrix I'll divide it by 1, which is same as remains as it is, and that is my inverse matrix. So going one by one, step by step. Now this is the box. I'll repeat once again. I have a matrix. I calculated the determinant of it. I find that inverse can be calculated. So I go ahead now. Then I calculated or written the transpose of that matrix, that is just inverting rows and columns. I calculate the cofactor for each and every element. I write it in the form of a matrix. I multiply it with the sign, set of signs here, plus and minus signs. I end up with the adjoint matrix multiplication here. Okay, so you get the adjoint of matrix. Then as per my equation, M inverse, adjoint of a matrix divided by determinant, which I calculated here, I'll get the M inverse. Now one by one block I'll go. So now you understood the transpose, how it is done. Row becomes column. You follow that colored line. 1 2 3 becomes column. 0 1 4 second column. 5 6 0 third column. So I have done the transpose. Then I will have to calculate the cofactor. Cofactor, it's very similar to what you calculated earlier as determinant. Very similar concept, you follow it. You make a shorter or sub matrix, right? It's called as cofactor matrix. How I obtained it? The point, the element I am observing is important. I am writing the cofactor for the element, first element, that is 1. Okay, corresponding row, corresponding column, I just have to leave it. Just leave the corresponding row and corresponding column. The remaining part, the remaining element forms the submatrix or the cofactor matrix. You can see here 1 6 4 0. Okay, now you find out the determinant for this matrix. That is 1 into 0 0 minus 6 into 4, that is minus 24. You get minus 24. So what did I do? For this I want the cofactor, corresponding row and column, I left it. The remaining 2 by 2 matrix is my matrix of concern. Okay, I have to find out the determinant for that particular 2 by 2 matrix, and I find that 1 into 0 0 minus 6 into 4, that is minus 24. Same way I have to repeat 8 times, total 9, right? 8 times I have to repeat. One by one I have to do it. For 0, corresponding row, corresponding column, I'll have to leave it. I have to write the cofactor matrix, that is 2 6 3 0. You can see here for 0, it is first row is left, second column is rolled out. 2 6 and 3 0. Okay, you can see here 2 6 3 0. Find out the determinant, and that is minus 18. I'll randomly go to some number. Same way you have to do for everything. I'll randomly go to the last but one. Here 4. The value 4. Corresponding row, corresponding column. If I leave it, 1 5 2 6. 1 5 2 6 will be my matrix, cofactor matrix. 1 5 2 6. For that I have to find out the determinant. That is 6 into 1 minus 5 into 2. That is 6 minus 10 minus 4. Right? So I get 9 different values, which are the cofactor for all those values. Now I had to make a matrix. You can see the matrix symbol here. In that I have to fill up 9 values. Which are those values? The cofactor for the corresponding elements I'll have to replace. For 1, I'll write minus 24. For 4, I will write minus 4 here. For the last one, 0, I'll write plus 1. Same way, 9 values I'll have to replace all the places. Now, this sign convention, I have to multiply with the sign convention now. This one. If you observe it carefully, it's like your tic-tac-toe game what you play, right? Very similar to that. It's alternating. So plus, minus, plus. If you see here, plus, minus, plus. Okay. You start with the first row, first column, and automatically the remaining things you can write it. So it's always alternating. Plus, minus, plus. So since plus is there, you should have a minus here. Minus, plus, minus. Since you have a minus, you'll write a plus here. Plus, minus, plus. It's alternating plus and minus. Okay, you can see the diagonal is plus, reverse diagonal is plus, remaining values are negative. So this is plus minus means it is plus 1 minus 1. Please note it. I had written plus here. It means plus 1 minus 1. So you have to do a matrix multiplication. That is individual values you will have to multiply. That is plus 1 into minus 24 is minus 24. Minus 1 into minus 18 is plus 18. Plus 5 into 5, sorry, plus 1 into 5 is plus 5. Similarly, over here, minus 1 into minus 4. This minus 4 corresponding value is minus 1 here. Minus 1 into minus 4 is plus 4. Likewise, all 9 values, corresponding sign values, you will multiply. Matrix multiplication, you do it, and that's called as adjoint of the matrix divided by determinant of M, that matrix, and that gives you the M inverse. So inverse of the matrix you can calculate. Okay. So even though it is the step possible over here, don't expect that the question should be this big. There will be many more zeros possibly. Okay. And you may have to calculate M inverse. Now I'll go on to the application of this, where it is used. So I hope you have understood the concept, how it is done. So I'll move on to the next. Yeah, explanation is given. I'll not read through the entire thing. Whatever I explained you, I have written it here in the form of a step for one value. For one value I have taken and I have given you the step which you have to repeat for all other values. The same step will repeat for all other values, one after the other. Okay. So I'll not go through this. You can read through this later. Now, coming to the application of that topic, that is in the system of linear equations. Several times the question has come on this, okay, using matrix multiplications. So say for example, in process calculation, you have come across this set of equations, specifically in biomass yield calculation, coefficient calculations, right? That is stoichiometric calculation, coefficients A, B, C, D, like that. 5 by 5 equations you would have come across. Now say, let me say 3 equations. In the unit number 2, you come across that, right? So like for example, sulfuric acid, acid addition, fortification it's called as. So such cases you will get simultaneous. That's just an example. So you have simultaneous equations which you can solve it using the linear algebra or this matrix calculations. How we do it? Now this is the equation: x plus y plus z is equal to 6. Of this x, y, z, there are 3 unknowns. With those 3 unknowns, you have 2 more equations. Here x is 0. You can see that x is 0 plus 2y plus 5z is equal to minus 4. I have another equation, 2x plus 5y minus z is equal to 27. This is another equation. So I have 3 equations which can be written in the form of a into x is equal to b. Means, how I write it? A is a matrix, is called as coefficient matrix. A is called as a coefficient matrix. X is a variable matrix, x, y, z, and B is the um, dependent matrix, right? So it is the constant. In fact, it's a constant matrix. So you have A into X into B. If you write this equation, this is in the form of a matrix. If you subdivide it, break it down, how would you get it? You will get it as 1 into X plus 1 into Y plus 1 into Z is equal to 6, which is your equation number 1. Or second row, 0 into X plus 2 into Y plus 5 into Z is equal to minus 4. Second row, you can see your equation. Third equation, relate it. On this side, you relate it. 2 into X, matrix multiplication, 2 into X, 5 into Y, minus 1 into Z is equal to 27. So you should be able to write in this form. You have the equation, but you should be able to write in the form of a matrix. How to solve? You have to solve for x, y, z. So x, y, z will be that matrix X, okay, variable matrix X will be equal to A inverse multiplied by B, matrix B. So you have to calculate A inverse. You have the matrix 3 by 3 matrix when you have the constant matrix. So you have to calculate A inverse, multiply that with the B. How to calculate A inverse? We have just discussed. Inverse of a matrix, how to calculate? We have just discussed. Using that method, you have to calculate A inverse, multiply with this B. Okay. Now, by doing that, we get X. A simple example is given here. A determinant of this matrix is minus 21. So there is possible, that is inverse is possible. So after that, you calculate that A inverse. Okay, A inverse is 1 by minus 21. Here minus 21 is the determinant, A by minus 21. This is the cofactor matrix, what I told you earlier, right? Make a cofactor and multiply the signs that you have to do. So A inverse is, this is the equation. And I straight away done it. I straight away have given you the answer here. I not simplified that. What I have explained you earlier, I not done. You have to do it on your own now. Looking at the step which I explained earlier. So using this A inverse, you calculate X now. How to calculate X? First you write the A inverse, what you calculated here, multiplied by B, it's available here. Do a matrix multiplication. That is, let that minus 1 by 21 be outside, let it be there. Now this matrix multiplication, you will be doing it. That is minus 27 into 6 plus 6 into minus 4 plus 3 into 27. That gives you minus 105. Similarly, 10 into 6 plus minus 3 into minus 4 plus minus 5 into 27 gives you minus 63. Similarly, last row, this column, you'll multiply and you get 42. So each row, sum product of this column, sum product of first row, column, second row, column, third row, column. If you do it, first, second, and third values, you will get it. What are they actually? You have to divide it by minus 21. You end up with 5, 3, and minus 2. This is the matrix you get. What is this? X is equal to 5, Y is equal to 3, Z is equal to minus 2. This is the solution for your problem. Okay. Now, okay. Before that, okay, fine. Before I go to the problem, there are two more topics. I'll just quickly go through that so that I can explain you the problem together, altogether. The next topic that you come across is in matrix is eigenvalues and eigenvector. Conceptually, I'll tell you, eigenvectors is a vector. Vector means it has got a direction, and the direction, it remains unchanged, means x-axis and y-axis. It remains unchanged when a linear transformation is applied to it. Linear transformation means, say for example, this yellow line is in this particular direction. Before change, this is in this direction. Its eigenvalues in the x direction and y direction are in this much. This is a number. This is some value. Okay. Now, if you change this direction for the linear dimension, you change it. That is, instead of that, you change this other side. So the direction of the eigenvector will not change, but their number, their value will change. So you can see that here x and y, if it say it was equal, now x has increased, but y has decreased at the same time. Okay, but the direction does not change. So the directionality of a vector, that is the resultant vector. Okay, this linear dimension, what you have is a resultant vector, and you have the two vectors, that is eigenvectors. What you have, they are the dimensions, x-axis and y-axis. So the eigenvectors do not change the direction when a linear transformation takes place. Okay. So whereas this resultant vector, it will change. Accordingly, your eigenvectors values will change, but not the direction. So how do we analyze this or use it? The transformation in this case is a simple scaling with the factor 2 in the horizontal direction and factor 0.5 in the vertical direction. Now, if you take it, if it was 1, 1 earlier, now what has happened? X-axis, it has increased by 2, y-axis, it has decreased by decreased to 0.5. Okay. So in the vertical direction, it is 0.5. If you observe, before it was 1, 1, now it is 2 and 0.5. If you take a determinant of this matrix, earlier it was 1, now also 1, 2 into 0.5 minus 1, right? Here also it is 1, here also it is 1. So that did no, overall there is no change, except that the value of that has changed. Okay, so that's the meaning of a eigenvector. Now, how to use that eigenvalues and eigenvector? Now we generally use it to solve certain problems in terms of calculating eigenvalues, that is lambda. Okay, eigenvalue is called as a lambda. It is the factor by which the dimension change. Here the factor by which the dimension change was 2. 2 times increased and 2 times decreased, right? So that is my eigenvalue. I want to identify if my vector is changing its direction, its dimension in the x-axis and y-axis, how much it changes. Okay, that's what I want to analyze here. That is my eigenvalue. In one direction it increases, another direction it is decreasing by same value. Remember it, it's inverse there. That is, it increases by 2, it decreases by 2 times on the y-axis. Now, in general, it's a vectorial representation. How do we represent before and after? A vector is equal to lambda vector. Okay, before and after. A vector and a lambda vector, and this is an equation. I can write it vectorial form, and that will be equal. Since it is equal, the difference between the two vectorial values will be equal to 0. So the vector what you see here is the dimensional vector that we take it, and a minus lambda I. Lambda is a constant. Lambda is a constant number. I is the identity matrix. I is the identity matrix. So why we take lambda outside here? Lambda into I. Lambda is a constant, as I told you. It increases in one direction by some value and decreases in the other direction by the same factor, and that factor we call it as eigenvalue. Okay, so the matrix identifies the direction, lambda identifies the factor or the value by which that direction changes. Okay, uh, I is the identity matrix, same as dimensions of A. Okay, same as dimensions of A in the sense, if A is a 3 by 3 matrix, identity matrix also will be of 3 by 3 size. That is the meaning of this. So since the vector is not 0 here, okay, so the vector, if you see it, vector will not be 0. Vector is a finite value. So this vector, I'll keep it constant. This a minus lambda I will be equal to 0. And if you take it's a matrix, right? It's n by n matrix both. So I have to take the determinant of that. So the determinant of that, if I take it, it will be equal to 0. This is the basis of all my calculation. Whenever you come across a eigenvalue problem, keep it in mind, eigenvalue. This is the equation that you are going to use it. So given a matrix, find out eigenvalue. First thing you will write is this equation. First thing you'll write is this equation. Determinant of a minus lambda I is equal to 0. In this, a is given to you in the problem. Lambda is the number which you have to find out. I is the identity matrix. If you remember, I have told you already. Identity matrix, that is all diagonal values are 1. Remaining elements are 0. The size of that identity matrix I is same as A. If A is a 3 by 3 matrix, I is also 3 by 3 matrix. Okay, so it's just enough. If you get A, matrix A, you can calculate lambda. Now, using this equation. So say for example, you are asked to find out eigenvalue for the matrix A, that is 2, 3 and 2, 1. You will write the identity matrix for that. Same size, it's a 2 by 2 matrix. You'll write an identity matrix of 2 by 2 size, that is 1, 0, 0, 1. Next, you have to write this equation, determinant of A minus lambda I. So matrix manipulation you have to do. Matrix substitute, matrix here it is subtraction, right? Matrix subtraction we'll have to do. How will you do it? 2, 3, 2, 1, this matrix minus lambda into this matrix. So if you simplify that, you will get this determinant of this matrix. How did I get it? 2 minus lambda into 1, 3 minus lambda into 0, 2 minus lambda into 0, 1 minus lambda into 1. You can see here 2 minus lambda, 3 minus 0 is 0, 2 minus 0 is 0, 1 minus lambda. It's here. Find out the determinant of this. How to find out the determinant? Cross multiply and with the sign here. 2 minus lambda into 1 minus lambda minus 3 into 2, 6. Right? It is a linear algebraic equation. Solve for lambda, this equation. I'm not going to explain you this entire step here. So you know how to do this simplification of algebraic equation. So you end up with two answers here. Lambda is equal to -1 and +4. So one dimension it increases by 4, in another dimension it decreases by -1. Okay, so that's the factor by which it increases and decreases. So there are two possibilities, -1 and +4. So two eigenvectors are there in this case. All right, so this is how you calculate eigenvector and eigenvalue. uh, Keep be informed that at least one question, most of the time, most of the question papers I have seen, at least one question you will have on eigenvalue. Okay, at least 2 by 2 matrix, sometimes 3 by 3 matrix. So 3 by 3 matrix also same mechanism. And I have some questions over here related to all these matrices. Let me quickly go through them. So the determinant of the matrix 4, -6, -3, 2 is how much? Determinant. The basic most basic question you can have here is this one. The complications point of view, lesser than this, it's very difficult to have. This is the easiest question of all you can have. 4 into 2, 8, minus of -6 into -3. Right, that is both are plus anyways. 6 into 3, 18, that is -10. So the determinant of the matrix is -10. All right, so you can have objective type or any other questions related on this. Then positive eigenvalue of the following matrix is, the matrix is given 2, 1, 5, -2. Just in the previous slide I explained how to do it. So you will make a 2 minus 2, this matrix, minus lambda, which is eigenvector, multiplied by a identity matrix. How do I get now? 2 minus lambda, 1, 5 minus 0, it remains 5, minus 2 minus lambda. So I have to solve this. I'll have to simplify this equation, algebraic equation. Determinant I will calculate, and I end up with an equation, lambda square is equal to 9. So if you simplify this equation, you end up with lambda square is equal to 9. I'm not going to explain you the solution of this. So you can do it on your own. I have told you the step how you have to do. This is an algebraic equation which can be solved by yourself. Lambda square is equal to 9. So there are two values now. Now this is the point where you have to be careful. This is a tricky question. You have two answers. Lambda is equal to +3 and -3. Two answers are there. In your choice, if there is a choice, this particular question was a fill in the blank kind of thing, right? So you are supposed to write 3. If you write 3 comma -3, it's a wrong answer, not because look at the question carefully. It's clearly mentioned the positive eigenvalue. You are expected to give only that answer. You may get 3-4 different answers. Okay, you are supposed to give what is asked. You may get 3,0. Say for example, you may get 3,0. In that case, a question can be there, a non-zero eigenvalue. So you should neglect that 0 and give 3 as the answer. So look at the question carefully. You may get multiple answers. Look at the question carefully and then answer. So just looking at the options, I mean, you get some answers. You whichever answer you see there, it is matching. Don't directly take it or enter the values. Okay. The value, next question, the value of determinant A given below is, this is the determinant, 3 by 3 matrix. Okay, you have to calculate determinant. I have told you the step earlier. You will consider 5, 2 into 16, 2 into 0. Yeah, you can see here there are 3 zeros. It's an upper triangular matrix, right? Upper triangular matrix. If you observe the solution, I'll tell you this one, 5, 2 into 16 minus 2 into 0. So it is 5, 2 into 16 minus 16 into 0 into 16, 2 into 0, it is 0, plus 81 into 0 into 0 minus 2 into 0. It's all zeros. It simply ends up with 5 into 2 into 16, right? Remaining all are 0. You can do this calculation in your mind. You do not even require a paper or a calculator, right? So looking, this is the way you may expect it. So some values are randomly zeros and some values are there. The only thing that matters for you, like it's matrix, I have not learned it. It may be difficult. Look at this. It is just only this much and the answer is there and you get some 1 mark out of it, right? So this is the place where you can score. Matrices, you can score easily. Matrices are all in mathematics, all concepts, all topics on mathematics, you can score. The reason why I tell you is in biological engineering, one of the paper topic section which is felt difficult is mathematics. So most of the students, those who do a kind of self-study, leave mathematics. If you score even 5 mark or 6 mark comparatively more than them, your score or ranking will be better than them. Maybe it may go up by 100 or 200 rankings. Okay, so that is why focus on mathematics. Do not leave it thinking that it's difficult or tough. The only thing is the questions are very easy. Okay, the questions are very easy. Only thing is you need to understand the basic principle and concept. The one question I have shown you here is not my own question. These all three questions were from previous GATE papers. It has appeared in GATE examination. 3 questions. 1 second, I had to move down. 3 questions over. Yeah. Now, don't worry about all the things written there. Read only the thing inside the square box. This is a old GATE question paper. Okay, this is one old GATE question paper. Read the question. The solution for the following set of equations is given. I'll not read it. The 3 equations given. You are expected to solve that and get the value of x, y, z. And the answer, possible answers for x, y, z, 4 choices are given, A, B, C, D. You are expected to answer any one of them, tick any one of them, A, B, C, D. This is the question. Now you have learned matrix, you have understood mathematics section, you are very confident in solving this. What you will do, you will write a matrix A into X is equal to B. You'll do calculate determinant of A, you will calculate adjoint of A. After that you calculate A inverse, you multiply that A inverse with B. Then you calculate X, Y, Z. The way I explained you over here. This entire slide, what I explained you will follow this particular method. Okay, you'll follow this method exactly like this. You'll follow, you end up with the answer. For doing this, you have consumed nearly 5 minutes. Same problem. Okay, that particular problem which I shown you, you will consume 5 minutes. Remember, there are choices given. You are not smart, according to me. What you have to do is, whatever you know, equation or method, everything, do not use it. You don't have to use it in competitive exam. Okay, one strategy I'll tell you here, what you can do. You know the answer and you know that one of them is correct. Okay, you are not sitting on a hot seat of Karodpati. Within 30 seconds you have to answer it. You have sufficient time. Instead of consuming 5 minutes, you may consume 1 minute or 2 minutes. What you have to do? Trial and error. Don't go by your matrix method. You know that any one of them is correct. You observe. I'm focusing on this kind of question only. Okay, right now I'm focusing on this kind of question only. My explanation, logic. You find out one equation which is easy for you, look wise, which is easy for you. In my explanation here, I have taken the first equation by default. You can take a simple one that is easier one equation, like for example x plus 3y plus z is equal to 7. So that equation you may choose if you want. That's your choice, left to you. In your mind you can do all the calculation. What calculation? If this solution is suitable for this equation, it should solve, right? Solve what mean LHS should be equal to RHS. So what you can do, I'll put it here. You can see this one equation, 4 choices are there, A, B, C, D, all 4 choices. One equation I'll choose, not all 3 equation, only one equation which is easy for me. I'll choose one equation. I've chosen equation number 1. Okay, equation number 1. I calculate LHS for it, which is 24. How did I calculate? 5 into 2 plus 4 into 1 plus 10 into 1. So that gives me 24. But on the right hand side, it is 13. So obviously A is not the correct answer. Then I'll go to the second option. I find that LHS same method. Okay, here x is equal to 1, 2, 0, this value. I'll put it and I find that LHS is equal to 13. RHS is equal to 13. Do not tick the answer now. Write it as maybe. Okay, this may be a tricky question here. You do not know. The other two may also be right for this equation. We do not know. We are not tested. Okay, so maybe this may be the answer. Okay, you cannot exclude now. Now, third equation I'll go, third choice I'll go, x is equal to 1, 0, 2. I'll substitute here 1, 0, 2. I'll substitute and I find that the value is 25. which is not equal to 13 on the right hand side. So obviously not C. Same way I'll do with the option D, x is equal to 0, 1, 2. I'll substitute in the equation 1 and I find that LHS is equal to 24. Okay, for the option D, the equation LHS is 24 and which is not equal to 13. So in this case, what should I do? That's also not correct answer, right? The only thing that looks good is equation number, choice number B. Don't answer now at this point again. Do not tick this. You have ensured with the only one equation. Now you put quickly for the other two equation, this option, x is equal to 1, y is equal to 2, z is equal to 0. You substitute here and you find that it is 7. Again, x is equal to 1, 2, z, 0. This one, third equation, you substitute and you find that answer is 0. That means this solution fits well for all three equations. So B is your answer, and that's for sure. You need not come here for revisiting your solution later at the end of the exam. Just before submitting, you need not come back to this. This is done. You need not revisit this. Mark has completed, right? You don't have doubt in this. So this is the correct answer. So this kind of strategy you have to adopt. Now, this is one example I told you. There are several situations you may come across numerical problems. This strategy you may adopt. You need not use everything stepwise, procedure-wise, equations, some methods that you learned. You may not use or you need not use. Okay, so sometimes the tricky way you can use it. Fine. Here is another question. The question is like this. There are two equations. 2x1 plus x2 is equal to 3. 5x1 plus bx2 is equal to 7.5. The system of linear equations in two variables shown above will have infinite solutions if and only if b is equal to, for one particular case value of b, there will be infinite solution. What is that b? This value of b, you should substitute, give a value for b. In that case, if value of b is that much, then this solution equation will have infinite number of solutions. What is that? Okay, now comes the degrees of freedom analysis. So I have a table for you. This you can keep it as a reference when you solve this kind of equation. This kind of equation, if you come across linear equations, set of linear equations and solutions, this is the standard way you can remember. Degrees of freedom, you have learned it in bioprocess calculation, right? Number of equation and number of unknowns. If both are equal, degrees of freedom is 0 and you have a unique solution, you can solve it. Previous problem, 3 equations, 3 unknowns, right? X, Y, Z, 3 equations. You have unique solution, A, B, C, D. The choice B was the correct answer. That is a unique solution. That is the example. But here you have some different case. So it is not a unique solution you want to have an infinite solution. When you can have, now look at this. If you have more equations and less number of unknowns, more number of equations and less number of unknowns, then you may not have a solution. Okay, you may not have a solution for that particular question or set of equations. You may end up with the multiple solutions or ambiguous solution. That is possible. So you may have to cancel out certain equations in those cases. And there is another situation where equation is lesser than the unknown. You have a number of equation and you have a equation and unknown. In this case, equation is insufficient to solve all the unknowns. In that case, you have a infinite number of solutions, large number of solutions, any number it matches. So what you should have here now, what is the condition required? Right now, if you observe, say that b is fixed, b, one number is there. If you put some number of b, say 2 or 3 something, now they look at the equation. You have two equations and two unknowns. Obviously it becomes equation is equal to unknown, number of equation equal to number of unknown, and there will be a unique solution. Now if the equation should be lesser than the unknown, what we should do, there are two unknowns, I cannot cancel out the unknowns, but B, using this some strategy, I can make it such a way that number of equation, I can make it 1 because number of unknowns are 2. Number of unknowns are 2. Equation should be right now 2. Equation should be lesser means the minimal value I can have is 1 equation. Right now there are two equations. I have to modify it in such a way that I have one independent equation. Okay, modify this equation in such a way that I have one independent equation. How do I do that? This is what has been done here. If you observe it carefully, 5 divided by 2. If you observe it, 5 divided by 2 is 2.5. On the other side, 7.5 divided by 3, it is 2.5, right? 7.5 divided by 3, that is also 2.5, and 5 divided by 2 is also 2.5, and here x2 coefficient is 1. If b is equal to 2.5, I have calculated in the forward way, I have explained in the reverse way. Okay, the reverse order I have explained you. If this b is equal to 2.5, 2.5 divided by 1, so what it means, equation number 1 multiply with the 2.5, you will get equation number 2 if b is equal to 2.5. If I put b is equal to 2.5 and compare equation 1 and equation 2, it looks to me that equation 1 multiplied by 2.5 will be equal to equation 2. That means equation 1 and 2 are same. The only thing is it's 2.5 times greater, right? So both the equations are same. That is called as equation 1, if you call it as independent, equation 2 is dependent. Overall, if you look at it, in that case, you will have only one independent equation. One independent equation, two unknowns. You end up with the third option here. One independent equation and two unknowns, you will have infinite solution. So if b is equal to 2.5, only in that case, you will have this third option, that is infinite solutions. Okay, so you need to be observant about this particular condition, this table. So equivalent problems you can think of. So I'll move on to the next topic, that is calculus. So only basic things I'll be teaching you here, not everything in detail. So in calculus, first thing that I would like to explain you is in terms of graphical maxima and minima. So whenever you have a variable f of x and x is a variable, f of x is a dependent variable depending upon x, you have some curvature. Blue line is a curve, okay, which defines f of x as a function of x. If you take the derivative, first derivative, okay, keep this in mind, first derivative, which is dy by dx, we call it a slope, delta y by delta x. Dy by dx or is the slope. Now if you reach a maximum of the curve, it's a curvature, remember it's not a straight line. Okay, if you reach a curvature like this, and at this point which is maximum, and this is a minimum, okay, this is a minimum value, and it moves up, you draw a tangent to the curve, at maximum and minimum, draw a tangent. So tangent will be a horizontal line, both the cases it will be horizontal line. So if you take a slope of the tangent, how do you take slope of the tangent? Delta y by delta x, whether it is this line at maximum or minimum, in whichever case, you draw a horizontal line which is a slope, sorry, which is a tangent to the curve. Find the slope of that, which is delta y by delta x, or we call it as dy by dx. Okay, dy by dx. If that is why dy by dx is also 0. So equation with me, this equation definition I have, f of x equation I have something like, for example, y is equal to 5x cube plus 2x square minus 3x. This kind of equation I have, for which I can find out derivative dy by dx. Okay, I can find out dy by dx. Now if I have dy by dx and equate it to 0 and find out that value of x, then I'll get maxima and minima. The location at which, this is the point, at this point there is a maximum, at this point there is a minimum. So given an equation, if I ask you to find out a maxima and a minima, you will be able to find out. Okay, at this point, remember, you may not be able to tell me exactly where is maximum, where is minimum. There is a possibility that there is a maximum or minimum. Okay, anyone you can tell me, you will say either maximum, minimum, because both the cases slope is 0. In both the cases slope is 0. It's either maxima or minima at that point. Whether it's exactly maximum or minimum, you may not be able to tell me. For that, what you have to do, you have to go for the second derivative. You have to take the second derivative of the equation, that is double differentiation. So when you take a double differentiation when you take it, when a function slope is 0 at x and the second derivative x is, if the second derivative is less than 0 at that point, remember, you know the value of x is equal to 0, you know the value of x, you know the value of x here. Okay, now that equation, you take a second derivative and substitute this value of x, substitute this value of x, now you get a number. Okay, if that number is less than 0, you have local maximum. If the value is greater than 0, then it is local minimum. Observe this carefully. It is the inverse here, reverse, means less than 0, negative, right? Less than 0 is negative. If the second derivative is maximum. If the second derivative is positive, it is minimum. Okay, so maximum. So how do I find out? I have equation here. Problem. You can observe this. Y is equal to 5x cube plus 2x 3x. This is the equation. What do I do? First I do take a first derivative, slope. Differentiate the equation, dy by dx. So I have to differentiate. That is 15x square 4x minus 3. This is the first derivative. I have to equate it to 0. Okay, I have to equate it to 0. When I equate it to 0, that is 15x square plus 4x minus 3 is equal to 0. I'll write the equation. So it's a second order, quadratic. It's a quadratic equation. I have a solution. Two solutions are there. X is equal to minus 3 by 5 and x is equal to 1 by 3. I get two solutions now. When I have the two solution, it's either maxima or minima at these 2 points. But where exactly is maxima, where exactly is minima, I do not know. I want to find out. So what do? I take a second derivative now. How do I take a second derivative? First derivative I have. Just derive it again with respect to x. That's my second derivative. So you can see here 15x square, second derivative. If I derive it with respect, differentiate with respect to x, I get 30x. 4x differentiate with respect to x, you get 4. For minus 3 it is 0. So I have second derivative 30x plus 4. The question before this was whether the maxima or minima, whichever is there, where exactly it is available, where it is present. So what should I do? In this equation 30x plus 4, I have to put these two values one by one. I will put x is equal to minus 3 by 5. You can see here at x is equal to minus 3 by 5, y double dash is equal to minus 14. At other point, x is equal to plus 1 by 3. I'll substitute here into this equation. Plus 1 by 3. I get at x is equal to 1 by 3, it's plus 14. So whichever value it is negative, there you have maxima. At x is equal to minus 3 by 5, you have local maxima. At x is equal to plus 1 by 3, you have local minima. Positive value, it is minimum. Second derivative. If second derivative is negative, you have a maxima. So this is how you find out a maxima and minima. Usually you come across two, at least one or two questions related to this. Okay, I observed that almost all the gate papers you have this maxima and minima questions. So you can expect at least one. So this is the simple way you can calculate. Now, last topic for this session, sequences and series. Okay, in calculus, you come across something called as infinite series. It just simply adds up all the terms in an infinite sequence. Okay, so sequence in the sense, you know, the 1 by r square, 1 by r cube, 1 by r power 4, like that it goes on till infinity, like that. Now you come across something called as convergence and divergence. You do not have to use some equations and all those things. You observe certain strategy, simple test method. Okay, there are many technical way you can do it. You compare the alternative numbers. If the nth term converges to 0, last value, put some value for that. If last value goes to 0, it converges. If it doesn't go to 0, it is diverging. Okay, and alternatively, each alternative term should be lesser than the previous one. I'll give you the example in my next slide there with the one problem. Okay, so negative sign, you just leave it, don't consider the negative sign, just compare the term by term, immediate one. If it is going on decreasing, then it is converging. Imagine, you know how it works. You throw a ball to the floor with some force. You'll throw it, then it will pop up, Then again it will come down to the floor, then it will pop up. But after some time, if you just follow that oscillation how it works, first the amplitude will be very high, then that amplitude decreases, and finally it becomes zero. That's convergence. That's convergence. Similarly, every popping, positive side or negative side, you consider it as a series. Every term in the series, you know the number series, right? So plus plus plus, you get it. Taylor series, for example. So if you observe each and every term in that series, the next term should be smaller. The amplitude gets smaller, right? So the next term should be smaller than the previous. And almost the last term, if you consider, it should be zero. Then you say it converges. If it is not, it diverges, it increases, right? So that's the strategy you can adopt to identify whether it converges or diverges. And there are many mathematical techniques to identify that. If you're interested, you can go through that. I'm not put up here, but with some strategy I'll explain you. If you observe the first equation, 1 plus r square plus r power 3 plus dot dot infinity and equal to 1.5. Okay, and if you see that it's a finite number at the end, the last value is the total value is a finite number. It is a converging series because the value when you add up, it's 1.5. It is not infinity or negative or anything. So it is 1.5, means the series here is converging. So looking at that, I can tell you r is lesser than 1. R is lesser than 1 because power, it is r power 1 2 3 like that, it goes on. So each and every number, if it is converging, r square value should be lesser than r cube should be lesser than r, right? It should go on, r power 10, r power 15 like that. So if r cube should be lesser than r square, it is possible only if r is lesser than 1. Okay, I'm telling you the final answer here. If you look at it, scroll down here, down, r is equal to 1 by 3, which is less than 1. So you can say 1 by 9, sorry, here 1 by 9 is lesser than 1 by 3. 1 by 27 is lesser than 1 by 9. This is what I meant by convergence. Okay, then now the problem is different here. Problem is not that. The question here is, if 1 plus equation up to infinity is 1.5, then they have given one more series, 1 plus 2r plus 3r square plus 4r cube plus up to infinity, up to 2 decimal value. You have to answer up to 2 decimal. This is important thing. If you have some fill in the blank question, then you have 2 decimal places, 3 decimal places, just specify it precisely and you give only that answer. 2 decimal means 2 decimal accuracy. Don't give all possible answers. Round it up to the decimal. So first equation, 1 plus r square r cube, it is 1.5. Let me call it as equation number 1. Second equation, 1 plus 2r plus 3r square plus 4r cube infinity, let me call it as s, which I do not know. I have to find out this s is the answer over here. Okay, so equation number 2. Now if you observe it carefully, okay, if you observe it carefully, there are two things to be seen here. If you that is equation 2 and equation 1, okay, there is a relationship, that is you can, they are very similar, r square r cube. That means you can deduct, you can make minus. Higher value I'll take first, then lower value I'll take. That is equation 2 minus equation 1. Okay, so that's the similarity I have observed. That is r and 2r, r square and 3r square, r cube and 4r cube, like that. So when I do that, what do I get? R into this one, r into r plus 2r square plus 3r cube, like that I get it. On the right hand side I get s minus 1.5 when I make 2 minus 1. Now in this, if I take r as the common term on the left hand side, if I take r as the common term, I get r common term outside, then I end up with 1 plus 2r square 3r cube, like that I get it. Okay, so I get it like this, is equal to s plus 1.5. Now if you look at the inside the bracket over here, the term inside the bracket, it's exactly same as my equation number 2, the second equation, same as that infinite series. So that I can write it as s. So it becomes r into s is equal to s into 1.5. Now this is my equation number 3, but there are, I want s, but there are two unknowns, r and s. So what do? I'll reuse this equation 1. I'll reuse this equation 1 from second term onward. It's a recurring term, right? So from second term onwards, I'll take r factor common outside. R, I'll take it outside. What did I do here? I written this equation number 1 as it is. Then I have taken r as a common factor starting from the second term. So it is 1 plus r into, so instead of r square, I can write it as r into r, right? R into r, like that it goes on, sequence, series. So the inside the bracket, again it is r equivalent to, 1.5, the first equation. This 1 plus r, this term is 1.5. So it is 1 plus r into 1.5 is equal to 1.5. This kind of strategies you require to use to solve simple problems. So if you solve this equation, you get r is equal to 1 by 3. Substitute r is equal to 1 by 3, you get the answer for yes. And s is equal to 2.25. So if you have to solve this question, I mean solve this equation 3, for which you require r. To get the r, you will modify this equation. So the point here I would like to show you or tell you here is, your solution, method of answering a solution is within the question itself. You have to look at the question in such a way that where is the answer? Within the question itself, you have the answer. So if you observe it, I did not take up any methodology or step extra thing to solve this. It is within. So I have just modified the equation in such a way that I reuse them in some other way, the way I want. So this is what is needed. Okay, this is what the gate looks at. Okay, yeah, you may come across different types of series. Use strategy as in this problem. Instead of remembering some series and their solutions, all infinite series that converge have a similar style of pattern and can be solved as mentioned in the last problem. So there is a pattern, you should catch the pattern. That's very important. Whether it converges or diverges, one thing. And the pattern, if you observe it carefully, there is some pattern that is associated. That pattern, you have to catch it to solve that. Okay, yeah, this is the end of today's session. So if you have any queries, you may ask. Any queries? In my next class, I will be concentrating on, there are two ways I can think of. One, I can give you the recorded lectures, or I can take the session directly like this. So whoever is possible, for whomever is possible, they may attend, and others recording will be available. My next topic, mainly I'll focus on probability and statistics, where majority of the questions are asked. I'll take more time on this, and maybe the last session I'll concentrate on differential equation and numerical methods. So within 3 or 4 series sequences, I want to clear it off. Okay, then I'll come on to the next topic of that is section 2 onward, 2, 3, like that. So I will not take up all the topics that are present. Most of the topics that are more important, more favorable for the examination point of view, gate examination point of view, I'll take it up. Yeah, if there are no questions, all can exit. Thank you.